Hello classy people, this is Josh the Top Hat Gamer, and this week I'm reviewing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutants in Manhattan. Platinum Games is the developer that keeps on giving, and in terms of action games they excel like no other. So when I heard they had been handed the license for TMNT, my inner child couldn't be more excited. Now that it's out, it's time to take a look. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutants in Manhattan follows the titular heroes as they investigate numerous criminal activities across the city. A number of the Turtles' former enemies have also resurfaced, and it's up to them to find out who they're working for and what the villain's end goal is. As far as stories go, TMNT Mutants in Manhattan is pretty superfluous. You're given minimal setup for it, and it ultimately boils down to 9 or so disjointed levels that leaves the story feeling unstructured, thanks in part to your ability to play these levels in almost any order. Thankfully, the game's overall presentation is far more appealing than its underwhelming story. The cel-shaded visual style isn't quite as striking as that of, say, Transformers Devastation, but it keeps the look of TMNT Mutants in Manhattan from being outright bland. Unfortunately, the variety of environments, or lack thereof, doesn't stop the game from feeling kind of repetitive despite its neat style. Plus, it only ever runs at 30 FPS, which is a damn shame. The overall sound design is about what you would expect from a TMNT action game. The upbeat rock tracks that accompany the gameplay get the job done, but there's nothing as over-the-top or as memorable as past Platinum titles, which is a bit disappointing. At least the voice acting is spot on, giving us the Turtles with distinct personalities that we know and love. Unfortunately, in the gameplay department, TMNT fails to deliver the Platinum experience that many of us know and love. Mutants in Manhattan is a fairly generic action game, but much of what Platinum usually excels at is nowhere to be found here. Sure, there are a few combos you can execute, but there's nowhere near the same level of depth as any other Platinum game I've played before, and there's a sense of over-the-top style and speed that is totally absent. Weirdly, despite its depth in combat, the blocking and parrying system has a surprising amount of options available, allowing you to outright block attacks, parry enemies to put them in a staggered position, or counterattack by spinning behind them to go on the offensive. The problem with this is that it's incredibly clunky to time these defensive maneuvers, and the payoff just isn't as satisfying as Witch Time from Bayonetta or Zandatsu in Metal Gear Rising. However, at the end of the day, these issues are fairly inconsequential. The lack of depth to the combat doesn't mean it can't be fun, and with enough time you can work out the nuances of the defensive moves. TMNT Mutants in Manhattan's biggest problem is its insistence of having all 4 turtles in the game at any given time. Standard combat sequences become an indecipherable mess when all 4 turtles are playing, making it even more difficult to judge the timing for your defensive moves, and you'll rarely see your combos in full because most enemies will be taken down after your AI-controlled partners dogpile on top of them. And it's not like each turtle plays differently or has a unique moveset. With the exception of a couple of super moves, they all play exactly the same, making me wonder why you would even bother having all of the turtles present at all times. Making this even more frustrating is the fact that the only kind of multiplayer available is online, and I couldn't find an online session once, making the feature functionally useless to me. TMNT's other significant fault is that the levels don't feel properly structured or well put together. Every single level will let you loose in an open-ish environment, and then throw random encounter after random encounter at you until an arbitrary meter is filled, allowing you to go fight the boss. It's a very repetitive level structure and leaves me feeling like this was used to cut corners. And then there are the boss fights. These encounters have the potential to be really enjoyable, signature Platinum boss fights, but once again, they're hamstringed by the need to have all 4 turtles in the fight at once. Dodging and parrying bosses is a pain when you can't tell which of the turtles the boss is focusing on, and when all 4 of them are unleashing their interchangeable ultimate attacks, each boss turns into a cakewalk. There are a few little things outside of the combat, but nothing really worth spending too much time on. The somewhat open levels allow for a bit of exploration, which unlocks the occasional equipable upgrade, but generally, these don't change up the game enough to warrant spending time on the customization screen for too long. I had high hopes for Platinum's TMNT game. They hadn't dropped the ball on any game of theirs before, and for Mutants in Manhattan to be as poor as it is disappointing to say the least. The messy, shallow combat alongside the clunky defensive options makes for a somewhat simpler Platinum experience, which would be passable, but the game features core design issues that stop it from being a fun, if basic, experience. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutants in Manhattan gets the Top Hat Gamer rating of bad. I can see the makings of a more approachable Platinum action game here, but the choice to have all 4 turtles active at once, as well as the repetitive approach to level design, leaves the game feeling mostly unenjoyable. If you're a TMNT fan, then this might scratch an itch for you, but otherwise I'd recommend avoiding it. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the review informative. If you missed last week's review on Homefront: The Revolution, click the annotation. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go play one of the many good Platinum games.